Ciao ragazzi, welcome along to the Inter Worldwide podcast. It's super early over here in Sydney, Australia. It's the middle of the day in the US. It's kind of late at night in Sweden, but hey, give that worldwide authenticity some respect on that's name. I've got my regular right-hand man, Mo here. Mo, how you doing, bro?
How are you, everyone?
Good to see you again. And we've got a fantastic special guest today. It's the second time he's lent us his great time on Inter Worldwide. Welcome, Sia, EuroSport news host and, big interpersonality in the Twitter sphere, in the culture sphere, wherever you're looking. Sia, thanks for joining us, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime, man, anytime. We're going to jump straight into it because, I want to use the time that we've got to speak about as many things as possible. Crazy season, not just for Inter fans or Serie A fans, all football fans pretty much. But Sia, before we go into some specifics, tell our listeners pretty much what were your prior expectations coming into this season? A season where Inter probably had the shortest time to prepare than anybody else in Serie A. Has the team exceeded your expectations? On Inter Worldwide, we like to stay as grounded as possible, but, we're moving in the right direction, man, long story short. So how are you feeling overall about the season and pretty much where we're at the moment, bro?
So I think before the season, I expected Inter to improve from last season. And many will say, well, Inter finished second last season in Serie A, so they had to win. I don't think few teams in football have to win. I think it's PSG in Paris, in France, have to win. I think Bayern in Germany has to win. I think Juve in Italy has to win because they have the biggest economy, the biggest, wages, the biggest players. Of course, Juve with Pirlo has a much worse coach than Antonio Conte is, but still, those are the teams that have to win. So what I expected from Inter this season was to compete for Serie A, because even though Inter finished 1 point of Juve last season, they didn't compete for the title. I mean, those, Juve were like 6-7 points before Inter when they won the league, and then Inter managed to tighten the gap, when the league was already over. So that's not competing for it. I expected the team to compete. I thought it was very important for Inter to make it to the next stage in Champions League. And I think the biggest failure of this season, not because of, the group was tough. And I honestly think Inter did, football-wise, their best football in Champions League. I mean, the amount of chances they created, the football they played, the few amount of chances they conceded. The away game against Real Madrid was really, really good, but not good enough, and the team was eliminated. So seeing the economical and financial situation of all football, making it through the group was crucial for our teams. And to be honest, this was the easiest group Inter has had in the last 3 years. I mean, the last 3 years, Inter's been up again against Barca and Tottenham, Barca and Dortmund, and I think their Inter didn't deserve to make it on, But this year it was an easier group. They really should have made more of it, and I think that was a big failure of this season. I also think it's impressive that the team managed to get back from that to go on the win streak that they have gone on now, because that elimination, many say, Inter got eliminated, so that's why they're doing well. But that elimination could have killed any team. For a team like Inter to go get eliminated by Shakhtar, it's not good. So, that's what I'm very disappointed with. And for the cup, I have to say, I think Inter did everything they could in the cup, because I wanted Inter to compete for it. I think Inter outplayed Juve at home, but lost that game. And then you have to turn it around with Turin. And, the Juve defenders, when they are defending a result, they are tough guys. They are good football players. So I'd say I'm quite okay with the cup. I'm quite okay, not okay with the Champions League, depending on how the league finishes, because I don't like to do big talk before it's over. But I see a much improved team, especially in this half of the season, mentality-wise, because this team beat Juventus at home, not conceding more than 2 shots on goal, dominating the whole game, putting away the chances. That is extremely important. And I think that for me in the league is the difference maker. So, I'm happy with some things and unhappy with some other things.
Yeah, well said. I think there's a couple of significant moments post being eliminated in the Champions League, and that Juventus win was definitely one of them. That was probably the game where Conte was able to get his players to believe that this Scudetto was attainable. And then after that, we went on a run of games where, we might have dropped a game here and there, but beating Milan in the derby was fantastic. And as I said last week, what I was more impressed with was the results against the likes of Parma, Atalanta, Torino, and then Bologna in this short space of time. These are matches where Inter would not have been able to collect maximum points in a season beforehand. And it just goes to show that that step up in mentality as well. So I would agree there. Let's move on a little bit to our next fixture, which is Sassuolo. We've just come off the back of a good win against Bologna. It was scrappy, it was rusty, it was dusty, the football was poor. But at the end of the day, it's all calculated results from here, and we're just trying to take massive leaps by getting these small wins. So we'll go over to you, Mo. The turnaround is pretty soon, man. It's already Tuesday morning here in Sydney, which means in just under 48 hours, a little bit less, we'll be taking on Sassuolo. So I'll let you start, Mo. What are your initial thoughts going into the match, especially since I've woken up early this morning to see that Berardi and Caputo are actually in doubt as well? So without speaking too much about lineups, because, we'll wait for Sky Sports and all of that fancy stuff, what are your original thoughts going into it, Mo? Sassuolo.
I'm just going to say one thing. 5 years ago, you're going into these games and you have the feeling of we might lose the game. Now, this second half of the season, as she has said, it's more confident as fans. We're more confident going to games like this. This is what a big coach like Conte, when he switches the squad's mentality from a team that is fighting really hard to a team that is confident in play. And it doesn't matter if they concede the play inside the game for the first 20 minutes or 30 minutes, it doesn't matter. You have this confidence that we might score at any time. I feel this in Inter, and I saw this, for example, in Guardiola's Barcelona in 2009, in the Real Madrid of Zidane, when you'll win at some point. Now I see us being the big team. Juventus, every time I talk to Juventus fans in the last 9 years, they always say, we go to games with 80% chance that we're winning this game. As Inter fans, we never had this, and we know that we're always that Pazza Inter, we might lose any game, but now this is where I'm going to the game. I'm a little bit relaxed. I'm not that stressed about that game. I know that I might jump off my couch, but I know that this team with the big mentality, the big coach, they might deliver at any moment. And there are small details that go your way when you're a big team. That's the tackle that a defender puts in, believing that I'm getting this tackle because I'm a good defender. A forward that puts a shot with a conviction, knowing that I'm going to score this one, and instead of some strikers with a lack of confidence. This is what we have now in our team, and that's due to the management and due to the squad being together. And as she has said, after the elimination, some squads, they fall, but some squads, they get together, and this is what happened to Inter. So I'm going to this game. It doesn't matter who plays. Brozovic suspended. I don't care. I think we have a bigger chance to win than if you talked to me 3 years ago playing Sassuolo at this stage of the season.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Sassuolo was one of many bogey teams which I didn't feel confident traveling to. Even when we started doing this channel, I remember doing match reactions to losing, I think it was 3-1 or 2-1 to Cagliari, dropping 2-goal leads against Torino. Let's not even talk about Parma. How many match reactions did we do where we just expected to drop points? And we did. So now going into these matches, knowing that 3 points is very viable and pretty much the most likely option, it's a good feeling, man. Going back to what you said about Brozovic being out, and I think Bastoni is out as well. Sia, how do you think we're going to go in terms of lineup and who's going to replace him? Because, there's starting to be a few whispers that Stefano Sensi might get a run in as a starting player. But, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. What do you think?
I'm not sure about Sensi. This is the type of the game that it makes sense to play him, right? Because Sassuolo are a bit similar to Inter. They play man-man, so every guy has his guy, and they play very fluid football. And Inter has a hybrid of that because now the defense, in the beginning of the season, Inter was playing a lot of man-man, as you call it here in Europe. I don't know if it makes sense, but it basically means you follow your guy, right? So. but Inter changed a bit, so the back three is more, organized, while Sassuolo has very much of creative fluidity in attack. I'm not sure this is the match I like. So I think two teams that will play football, and there, of course, Sensi is good, but there's going to be a lot of running, a lot of covering, a lot of taking your guy, because if you lose him, you're going to lose. So I'd probably go with Gagliardini, Eriksen, and Barella on the midfield. I think Barella looks a bit tired, and that's normal because he's played so much. He played for Italy. After the national team break, Inter has always had problems after the national team break. Always. I think Inter has won twice now after the break, and I think that's the first time in so long that it happens. But so we have to consider these things. I think the lineup is really hard because I don't know if De Vrij is fully recovered. You don't know with COVID what it does to physical level. Ranocchia was good. I don't know if Kolarov is fully recovered. I don't know if Perisic is fully recovered. So there are a bit of question marks. What we do know is Skriniar should play, Handanovic should play, Hakimi should play. So I think the doubts will probably be, the Ranocchia or De Vrij and Kolarov in the back three if he's fit. More than that, you have the Darmian, Young, or Perisic. Depends on who's fit. Lukaku, Lautaro, are they fit? Or because Sanchez looks very good, so he could be part of the starting 11 as well. I think the given ones, Hakimi should be playing. So it's really hard to say who will play, but I kind of feel confident anyways. I think Sassuolo will cause problems for Inter, but I also think Inter will cause problems for Sassuolo. And Sassuolo, even though they don't have Berardi and Caputo, they have Raspadori. He's a nice talent. They have Boga. He's a nice talent. There are some players in that team that are very good, and it's a tough game. But I think this team they're just grinding out wins, and I wouldn't be surprised if sooner or later a dip comes. But I think this kind of game, it was a long time since Inter won against Sassuolo, if I'm not mistaken. And last year, we came back from the break and had Bologna and Sassuolo, and that's where we lost the Scudetto, more or less. We had a penalty at 1-0 against Bologna, missed it, and lost the game. Sassuolo, we dropped points. So it's always going to be difficult, but I have a lot of confidence in this group. It's unfortunate, of course, that both Brozovic and Bastoni are gone, but I think Brozovic, he has a good break, at least. Bastoni, he's young. He could have played again. So difficult to know who. It will be an even game, but I think Inter has everything to hurt Sassuolo.
Yeah, I would agree, and I'm pretty sure, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, one of you, but Bastoni and Brozovic, I think they were flirting with their last yellow card for about 3 or 4 matches now. So if anything, I think it was just inevitable that it was going to come. In terms of our record against Sassuolo, Sia's right. We got a good win against them this season, but my memory is still marred by leading 2-1 against them last season and Gagliardini missing a tap-in from about 3 or 4 centimeters out, and then it was just chaos from there. But I'm pretty confident, as Sia said, that this team should be able to grind out results. And even if there was to be a dip at some point, even if we were to drop points hit in a couple of days' time, I'd be very confident in the team rebounding well against Cagliari. Anyway, just to finish off, sorry.
It's interesting with Sassuolo because I think that's where Inter season turned around, because that's when they changed the system from 3-4-1-2 in the away game and played 3-5-2, and everyone was back in position. Inter won comfortably 3-0 away, and I think we started to get the points and the wins and the stability from that game. So it's good to see what has happened since then and until now, because I think that was the 9th round, so that has more or less until now changed Inter season.
Yeah, fair point. Mo, we know that De Zerbi is going to play a more open game than Mihailovic was. So we might actually get a couple of better chances on the break than we did against Bologna. So run us through a very quick expectation. What do you think is going to happen, and your prediction, please, bro?
I think we're gonna sit a little bit, and then we're gonna play counter, because this is the best way to play a free-flowing team like Sassuolo, which is, I think this is what Conte has done against teams like this. And I think Lukaku and I think Alexis will get some playing time, maybe from the start, as Shia said, because he's a very good option right now, and maybe Lautaro will take a break. I'm expecting 3-1 Inter with, I don't know who's going to score, but Lukaku will score.
Yeah, he will score. And Sia, what's your prediction, man? How do you think the game's going to go?
I'm going to go with a lot of goals, so 3-2. I think.
Lovely, man.
I think seeing that someone is going to be playing in an uncomfortable defense position is bound to happen. Like, things are bound to happen, and Inter's attack at the moment is very strong. So Lukaku and the guys, they will score goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm really looking forward to Alexis Sanchez coming off the bench again. Every time he warms up, I start to get excited, man, because he is just that little bit of quality that if you inject him into the game in the 60th, 65th minute, he's an absolute nightmare for everybody on the pitch to be able to control. Thanks a lot for the yell.
Yeah, sorry. For the first time since he came, that he is actually doing what you dream of him to do, because he's physically very good, he's technically very good, and he's been very good at creating chances before. But now he has that, extra edge that you say, if Lautaro or Lukaku are missing a game, I feel comfortable to start with Alexis. So I think he's in his best shape ever at Inter, and that's crucial for the season.
Absolutely, man. Being able to inject that quality that's on par with the quality that you already have in your starting 11. We've seen it over the years. This is the difference maker, not just in Italy, in every single league in the world. If you want to consistently go on to win a league title, you need to be able to look at your bench and have the reinforcements that are just as trustworthy as your starting 11. Very good chat about Sassuolo. Let's hope that we get the 3 points, because to be honest, if we get the 3 points in this, man, I'll start to jump on the hype train. To be honest, full speed ahead. I wanted to talk a little bit about Inter's financial status, because over here in humble Sydney, Sia, all I really can do is wake up and read the news headlines every single day. And to say that they're biasly skewed every match day of the season or every day of the season would be an understatement. So, I was going to speak to you a little bit about Inter's financial status and basically where you think the club's going in the direction with ownership, the latest sort of updates. And I wanted to also talk a bit about these headlines that keep coming up and resurfacing every day about us failing to pay wages, us failing to pay installments to certain clubs, even though Real Madrid comes out and officially debunks these headlines on their own account every now and then. Long story short, Sia, you know exactly what I'm talking about. What's Inter's current financial status, and is there much reason to have almost a stroke and a heart attack, as most Inter fans are having at the moment, bro?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think so. Obviously, the ownership had a big liquidity problem, like cash flow problem, and to be honest, it's not only about them; it's about Inter as well. And Inter, as every football club, has irregular injections of cash flow, right? So before, wages have been paid monthly, but cash has arrived, every 3 months or every 4 months or every 6 months. You don't really know when they arrive, but it's all been saved by the stadiums, right? Because the match day revenue keeps on ticking in. I think the COVID situation has showed how fragile that system is, because all of a sudden football stood with their costs but without their revenues. And broadcasters don't want to pay. So I think that was the main problem that came. Also, Inter was at a phase in their financial structure where they were taking giant steps towards the next level. They had gone from being a club that tried to sign cheap and players to signing a big coach, signing a big striker, signing Christian Eriksen, signing Hakimi. So when you take the step to being that kind of club, you obviously rely on Champions League money, stadium money, a lot of money, and when that's taken away from you, you obviously risk. I think there's been too much fuzz about the wages situation, because all clubs, more or less in Italy and in Europe, have done a deal with their players to delay the paying of their wages. And you know, I think, of course, it's it's not the best situation, but seeing how the financial status is in the world of football, I mean, we're talking about clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona, the English clubs, all clubs are struggling. So it's not an Inter problem. And so um, I think the biggest problem for Inter has been the loans, because Inter has had loans that cost a lot, that are expensive, that are expiring, that you need to renew. And that is, of course, a financial burden for club. So that's a situation that we need to keep our eyes on. And that's the situation that the ownership is having trouble with when they can't, export cash from China as they maybe would have wanted to. And that's probably why they are looking for a minority owner, because it could lead to a cash injection into the club. So it seems that the situation of the ownership has become better because they've sold off some of their shares to the state. Of course, you'd probably prefer to not sell, right? But since that happened, it's freed some liquidity, which probably gives the owner more calm, and that also means the club is more calm. I think just a month ago, I felt like I was reading about a takeover every day, and now I'm not reading anything anymore. So I think some things have calmed down, and I'm quite interested in seeing how it turns out, because from almost thinking it was guaranteed Suning would be out, I'm not sure that's the case anymore. And I obviously think that it's in their interest to wait, because if Inter would go on to win, they'd be guaranteed the first spot in Champions League. They'd be guaranteed the, new brand launch. They have a stadium project coming. It's not a good time to sell Inter now. But if they want to free 30%, they probably will sell, it's the Lion Rock shares, which is, of course, another company, but is more or less controlled by Suning. So we'll see what happens initially with the 30%, and then in the future, we'll see what happens further on, because, it's a big investment to make, and not many companies would want to be a minority owner. So there's a lot of ifs and buts, but I honestly feel quite calm, and if I kind of like the fact that these players are delivering so well when they might not get paid. It's a bit ironic, but obviously I just blame Suning for being so quiet, and allowing people to speculate so much. I really think that damages the club.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that there. From what it looks like from my perspective, it's that, Steven Zhang, this was his baby. This was his project. He was nowhere near ready to let go of it yet. And the liquidity problem just hit him like a ton of bricks. And I think he's doing everything he can to maintain the stability of the club until he gets that cash injection, until he wins that elusive first prize. Yeah.
He's Steve, I like Steven, and I also think that he cares a lot about Inter, but that daddy is the boss in that family. So when daddy says it, you're not playing with this toy anymore, it's over. And that's daddy, when the Chinese government tells daddy that it's enough with football now, that's what it is. It's not a joke. So that's the thing. I really think, and I really believe that the Zhang family really were serious about Inter. And I really think that they really wanted to use Inter to expand Suning's plans, to expand their brand into Europe, to work tightly with Italy. They have a lot of cooperations, but I think the virus and the new 5-year plan from the Chinese government has just changed things. I still think Inter is relevant, for Suning, but I don't know how relevant they are. And I think if the answer to that question is Suning still needs Inter to expand their core business, then there's a future with them. If they think that's not the case, they will sell.
Yeah, fair enough. Mo, brother, anything to add about the financial situation before we move on? Also, we might as well talk for just a couple of minutes about the whole logo change, because we kind of forgot to mention it in our last video, and I saw a couple of people comment going, "Why didn't you refer to the logo?" I'm like, man, I think everyone already covered it. That's why. But to be honest, Mo, what's your reaction to the new logo? I actually don't find it to be half bad. I did read somewhere that we haven't actually changed the club crest in any way, shape, or form. This is just a marketable sort of logo in order to shift the sort of image of the club into a more minimalistic direction. So, Mo, what was your reaction to that? And then we'll touch on it with Sia as well before we move on to the final part of the pod.
I like the new logo. To me, it's a representation of the club. It's just the same colors, and it's simpler, and it's moved to the new modern direction. And with Inter being now, the valuation of the brand worldwide is much, much bigger. You will need to move in the same direction where everybody's moving, and this is what Inter did. Is it that different from the old one? Probably yes. Is it going to change the whole brand? Maybe, but I don't think so. I think it's just treat it as is. It's just a logo. When they did Not For Everyone, it was just a banner. But the Inter is known more now in the world that this logo is just a representation of the club, but the actual brand itself is just same. It's same as Inter. I know fans are going crazy about, like, on Twitter. It's just nuts, the amount of negative. But we've seen this from the Juventus fans when they changed their logo as well. Everybody's like, we don't like this. We want the old. But people are opposed change. It's known everywhere in the world, right? They'll get used to it. But I think this one, in my opinion, will put Inter even more on the map, because our valuation is going through the roof, winning the Scudetto. And I think if we get first in the first part of Champions League next year, and if we advance, hopefully, it will get us in the next level, and we needed something different. And this is what they presented. And I think we should back the club. We shouldn't be, as fans, because we are the face, right? It's Twitter, it's all the news, it's everybody. This is where people get their feedback, and that's it. I think we should just back the club instead of the negative feedback all the time.
Fair call. Sia, what was your initial reaction, and what are your thoughts on the logo change, bro?
I'm quite fine with the new logo. I thought I'd be less fine. I kind of look at the flag behind you, and I really think the modern logo is beautiful. I think it's very Inter, very much, very nice, very clear. I miss some of the golden details in the new logo.
Yes.
My biggest problem with the new logo is that the base logo, the one that we actually like, the go-to logo, is uglier than all of the mock-ups with the new colors, with the merch. I've seen the all blue logo. It looks fantastic. I've seen the all gold logo. Looks fantastic. I've seen the black and yellow logo. Looks amazing. But then I've seen the logo itself, and I think it's the worst version, and I kind of have a problem with that. Other than that, I think it's a good step. And I think it's, I was afraid of it becoming like Juve's logo. And I think that's horrible, because I know you guys, in Europe, we are very forward leaning, but we like our football Stone Age. We like our football non-modern, not moving forward, not Americanized, not like the basketball or American football franchises, the baseball teams. We really hate that thing. But I think the Inter logo is different. It's minimalistic, but still not as minimalistic as the worst ones I've seen. I think it can be adapted, and I'm kind of hoping, because I'm too superstitious to talk about the S word yet, but a golden logo being launched in May sounds like it could be a very nice thing, but let's not
Yeah.
go there yet.
100%, man. We're conserving all of our energy for now. So let's talk a little bit more relaxed and chat some shit for the last 5 minutes, because regardless of how Inter is performing at the moment, man, there are a couple of sides that need to look at their own bedroom. And let's talk a little bit about our main rivals and just how you think the rest of the Serie A season is going to pan out, bro. So for me personally, man, the way Juventus have performed this season, I did not expect this whatsoever. I'm the type of Inter fan that thinks even if Juventus don't win the game, the result can still change on the team bus on the way home. That's how much it needs to take for me to see Juventus fall. But overall, man, what are your thoughts on their season under Pirlo, their drop, and where do you think they need to go to improve next season, man? Do they need to get rid of Ronaldo? Do they need to sacrifice Dybala? Because they can't keep both. I dare say we're never going to see it in the media as much as we see it against Inter, but their book situation is far from healthy as well. They're going to have to make some sacrifices, and they've made some really poor Mercato decisions in the last 2 years. So overall, Sia, your perception of Juventus and this season and where they're going to go?
I think everything started going badly for Juve when they fired Marotta. In the beginning, of course, uh, Paratici and the guys, they took a lot of credit for what was Marotta's work. But we can't forget that Juve was a team that was easily winning Scudetti. They had 2 Europe Champions League finals in 2 years or 4 years. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Two, I think 2 in 4 years with Allegri. They had a financial situation that let them buy big players, big names, young players. They went in the right step with De Ligt, for example. They could do a lot of big transfers, and I see where they wanted to go with Ronaldo, because Juve feels like a big team, right, for us who follow Italian football. But Juve has always been a very Italian team, and they have always been very hard to sell internationally, worldwide, out of a marketing and branding perspective, because you know they've never been like Milan. They won 7 Champions League titles. They have a huge history. They have a huge fan base. They are big, known in the world. They've had many stars, many big players in the 90s, in the 2000s. And Inter didn't win as much, but Inter had R9, Inter had Adriano, Djorkaeff, Inter had Mateus, Inter had a lot of big names, big players, and big brand. They had Moratti, who was one of the first to travel to China. Juve has always been a very Italian team. So when they signed Ronaldo, they probably didn't do it only for the sporting reasons. They probably did it for a marketing point of view that they'll see the results of in the coming 10 years, right?
Yeah.
But in a sporting perspective, just to give you an example, the wages that Ronaldo has is, it's like having, just to give you an example, it's like signing 4 or 5 Lukaku. So,
Wow.
He's on 30 millions net. Lukaku is on what, 7.5. Lukaku's transfer is what, 60, 70, 80 millions. They paid 100 millions for Ronaldo, but it's the wages ticking. So they threw that situation away to sign Ronaldo. And if they would have won the Champions League or made a semi-final or made a final, no one would question that. But now they've put themselves in a situation where they've been knocked out by Lyon, Ajax, and Porto. That's not good enough. And it's not really Ronaldo's fault, because the guy has been performing. And this year, I just think with Sarri, they had a coach. They had a guy who knew what he was doing. And even though Sarri didn't have anywhere near the material that he'd need to play his football, because his Napoli and his Chelsea were very good sides, he was a coach. Pirlo isn't a coach. I'm like, Pirlo isn't a coach. He was a fantastic player. He probably can have a good future as a coach, right? But he isn't a coach. And if I was Juve, I'd probably have sacked him a month ago, because I think they are risking to miss the Champions League. And if you do that with Ronaldo, it's a big problem. Even though Juve usually finds ways to sell and buy players with Genoa or Udinese or Sassuolo to make the plus in the books that they need. The financial situation of missing out on CL is very, very bad. And I honestly think that Juve, even though they've been unlucky this year with COVID and injuries and stuff like that, I think they have the best squad in Serie A. If you look at their team, so they have Chiellini and Bonucci, but they also have De Ligt. They have Danilo, they have Alexandro, they have Chiesa, they have Morata, Kulusevski, Ronaldo. They have Bernardeschi. Not, I don't like Bernardeschi like that, but it's still for Serie A. Nobody has that squad. They have a really bad midfield, but that's because of them, because they went on signing free transfers. Ramsey, Rabiot, Arthur came in for Pjanic, just to make plus Valenza. So the choices they've made has been paying high wages and agent fees instead of signing good players, and it's coming back to bite them. Because now you look at Milan and you see Kessie and Benacer and Tonali, it's a better midfield than Juve comes up with, right? You see Inter, you have Brozovic, Barella, Vidal, you have Eriksen, it's a better midfield. You see Napoli, Zielinski, Fabian Ruiz, Roma even maybe. So Atalanta, there are like 6 or 7 teams that have better midfielders than Juve, and that's not good enough. So I think they have thrown away some, because when Inter won the treble, right, everything stayed as it was. Yeah. Because Moratti is Moratti, he was the biggest fan, and a fan would never kick out Diego Milito the day after the treble, right? But Juve, when they went to the first Champions League final, they said goodbye to Pirlo, goodbye to Tevez, new players, we have to refresh, new stuff coming in, new stuff happening. So they were so competent, they were so good. They have wasted a 5-year advantage in 2 years.
Yes.
And that's not good enough. And, of course, as Inter fan, I enjoy that. But if you look out of a football perspective, it's shameful what these guys have done, because they were a model out of money, quality, competence, the Italian, backbone of the team. Inter has more Italian players than Juve now. Yeah. I mean, they've lost everything. They've lost their identity. They've lost their economy. They've lost the balance. And now they have Cristiano Ronaldo in the team that in COVID time, who's going to pay him 30 millions net euros? Who's going to pay him 100 millions to sign him? Nobody can do that kind of signing now. So he's not going to be happy because his teammates aren't good enough. I love Kulusevski because he's Swedish, but he's a 20-year-old boy. I love him, I like McKennie as a player, but he's also a 20-year-old boy. Chiesa, he's 20-something as well. So he's just in the middle of a lot of young players, and the old guys aren't as good as they were. So it's a very bad situation for Juve and for Cristiano.
Yeah,
I want to ask you something.
Go for it, man.
If, as an Inter fan, but also as a Serie A fan, and this is the work we do, and would you rather have Juve in the Champions League to represent the Serie A, or would you rather them not be in the Champions League? As an Inter fan first, maybe Serie A second. I don't know which one is first, but what do you think?
Yeah, it's difficult. Of course, as an Inter fan, you never want Juventus to do well. As a Serie A, I don't really need to hide that, because I've been very clear that when it comes to Europe, Atalanta, if they go to quarterfinal, I'm fine with it. But if someone asks me, do you want them to win the Champions League? Obviously, no. Absolutely not. I don't want any team in Europe to do well except Inter. But like that, because I don't think so. I don't think Serie A is represented by how their teams do in the European competitions. I think that only talks for the individual quality of the club. So I think when Juventus went to the Champions League finals, it wasn't because Serie A was good. It wasn't because Juve was good.
Yep.
So, and I've been consistent with that. So now that everyone is saying, yeah, Serie A is bad because, Inter was knocked out and Roma was knocked out and everyone was knocked out, I don't think so. I mean, I think Italian football is worse than it was for a long time, but this year and last 2 years, I think the league is becoming better. But so out of that point of view, I don't really care. I want the teams that deserve to go to Champions League with their table place go there, and that's going to be down to the table. So if Juve miss Champions League, that's what they deserve, and the team that goes to Champions League deserve to be there. And I will probably hope that they proceed from the group, but I don't want them to win because I want Inter to win.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly right, man. All right, well, pretty much let's piggyback on that and just move on to one more thing, which is pretty much the Champions League places in Serie A. And we're going to go back to Sia. I know we're throwing everything onto you, but that's because Mo and I have been hogging the camera on this channel for the last 2 weeks, and we give our thoughts once every couple of days. So it's getting tight, man. It's getting tight, bro. And I'm already licking my fingers at the prospect of Napoli getting 3 points against Juventus in a couple of days' time. But looking at how close and compact this is, Sia, who would you say is your prediction to go through and finish up on the Champions League places, and maybe touch a little bit on Milan and how their season's been for you? And did you expect them to be able to carry on in this fashion? Because, I think everyone was impressed with their start of the season, and I hold my hand up, I've never bought into this whole, Juventus are the real enemy, Milan are just our little cousins. No. I've got two enemies, man. One of them is black and white, the other one is red and black. And I've always said that from the start of my life. I just hate one a little bit more than the other. But I'm still very impressed with the way that Milan's been able to just stay in that curve, because with the amount of injuries and how they've been hit hard, I could have seen Pioli losing 7 out of 9 games in the last 3 months, but he didn't. So overall, Sia, your thoughts on Milan, and how do you think the top 4 is going to finalize itself, man?
I think Milan has had a season that's been very much better than anyone could have expected. I mean, I think the Milan fans probably were the only ones who expected it, because they were playing so well after the COVID break. And, I was one of the first that thought that, this COVID football isn't football, because, everyone was playing games every 3 days. And of course, that will give an advantage to the top teams, right? Because so one of the negative aspects, right, of being a top team is that you can usually have Champions League or Europa League or Cup and face teams like, Sampdoria, Sassuolo, that have rested 1 week and they'll just run over you. But after COVID, after the break, every team was playing every 3 days. So Inter obviously has a bigger squad than Sassuolo after the break. Now Inter didn't win their game, but you guys understand the point. So I really didn't think it was going to last for Milan. And I think the first half of their season was incredible. I think they were playing good football, positive football. They looked very fluid. They looked very good physically. They looked like they were creating a lot of dangerous chances. They were so quick in counter. All of their individual players, Çalhanoğlu was disappointing last season's. Kessie, Zlatan, they showed all their qualities at once. And I think Ibra installed the mentality in this group. And I think it took them really far, but they also had a tough season, long season, because they started, early with the Europa League qualifiers. They had a preseason in difference from Inter, has to be mentioned. And then I think they were in it for so long. I think Zlatan's injury in November made a big difference for them, because even though in the beginning they were managing to do well without him, in the longer run, he's the one that makes the difference in that team. He's the guy who scores the goals, who invents the goals, who wins the duels, who's, the leader. He's not the captain, but he is the leader. So seeing all of the problems they had, they are having a very impressive season. I consider Juve Inter's main competitor for the Scudetto. The table today says something else. It says that Milan should be considered as well. But the question is if Milan now will be scared to look back at the teams coming at them, or if they still have the courage to look forward. I think the coming 2 or 3 games will decide that, right? Because Milan faces Juve, they face Atalanta,
and Lazio as well. I'm pretty sure straight afterwards.
Yeah, so they have the Roma as well.
Wow.
So, oh no, they face Roma twice. Sorry. So they have tough games remaining against the teams that they are battling for this place, and I think that Atalanta and Napoli are taking win after win after win. So I'd say Milan's season is by far better than anyone could have expected. But if they go on to miss Champions League, that's not going to be worth anything. So it's very important for them to get Champions League, because then they'll get their reward for how well they were doing. And if you get the Champions League, you get the money, you get the players who want to come to you, you get the current players, Donnarumma, guy wants to play Champions League. Theo Hernandez, man, he will want to play the Champions League. Because Zlatan is 39 years old, and he's done what he can do, at top level. I don't think he, thinks, I can be off better in another club. But the young guys, the guys like Donnarumma, the guys like Theo Hernandez, the guys like Kessie, I think those guys really want to play the Champions League. And if they get that, it means money comes in, it means they can attract players, it means that they can have a whole nother reality. And when the stadiums open up, it's big money coming in. So it's crucial for them, because otherwise it'll be, you guys had a 6 months good, and then you didn't make the Champions League, and that would kill any team. So it's crucial for them. And as things are looking, as things have been looking for the whole season, if you look at advanced data and the stats that are there, Milan has been performing as a 5th or 6th place team, and the difference has been made by Zlatan and the great amount of penalties they have had. And I am the first to say that I think the penalties, 15 out of 16 have been correct. They have created good enough situations to get penalties. It's not a criticism towards them, but it's made a huge difference. And that's so if you look at the chance production and the offensive play and the levels at Milan, they are currently behind some teams, but they are at the place in the table that it should mathematically soon mean a Champions League spot. But if it doesn't, I would be worried as a Milan fan, because a lot of players mentality wise, it would probably drain them.
Yeah, I honestly think if they were to miss out on the Champions League, man, it would knock the absolute wind out of all of those players and the club in general. They might be looking at reinstating that proposed project that was meant to be there, a year and a half ago or so. Because, as you said, Sia, to have that sort of start to the season and then to miss out on the primary objective altogether, oh man, I'd hate to be a Milan fan at the end of this season if that happened.
Because the players are human, right? They're like the fans. And if you go from a Scudetto battle, let's say like Inter last year, you go from the Scudetto battle to finishing second, you play Europa League final, season can be seen as quite good anyways. But if you go from a Scudetto battle to be okay with a second place, in Milan's case, let's say this season, nobody thought they'd be top 4 probably. I didn't think they would do top 4.
Me either.
So if you go from that to finish second, you're going to go into the next season thinking we can win it, and that was what was important with Inter finishing second last year. The belief of, if we improve a bit, we can win it. Because then if, Inter goes far in the Champions League or Juve keeps messing up, you can win the league. But if you go from, we will fight for the Scudetto, to, okay, we'll fight for the Champions League, to go into the Europa League again, it's a disaster mentality-wise.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Mo, it's pretty much time to wrap this up. But any last words, basically regarding anything that Sia just mentioned or that we've just spoken about, Mo?
No, I just think Milan are not going to make Champions League. I looked at the schedule and I looked at their fixtures, and I think they have the toughest ones. They're playing Atalanta, Juve away, and I don't think they have it in them to win these games. And
Lazio would want to beat them after the last game they played that Milan won in the last minute. I think
the one that Inzaghi threw away with his substitutions, right?
I think Lazio really felt that one, because they felt probably they were better and probably let them into the game. And I think Lazio and Atalanta as well, they have a bit of a grudge against Milan. I really don't understand why, but I think those two teams. But I think today the table is a bit more complicated because, for example, in the weekend Milan faces Parma and Inter faces Cagliari, and you'll say it's the bottom teams, it should be easy, but those are the teams that fight for survival, and those teams will give you hell. I mean, they will defend with 11 men, they will waste time, they will do set pieces, they will do elbows, yellow cards, they'll make your life hell. So those games are very hard now, so that's, if we look at a month from now, you probably might face some team that's already eliminated, or some team that's not fighting for anything, and without fans there's hard to motivate yourself. But like Parma in the weekend for Milan and Cagliari for Inter will be tough, because those teams will just fight to the death to get 1 point. Sassuolo, Inter, I'm not saying it's an easy game, because of course Sassuolo is a better team, but Sassuolo, they're not fighting for anything. They don't have the desperation. They just want to play football, cause an upset, get a good result, have a good time with the guys, but they're not having the greater good spirit. I want to win this because I have to go to Europe. So it's a very, very difficult schedule that's awaiting. But I think if Ibra is in shape, he's going to resolve that.
He's that X factor, man, that last little bit of motivation that convinces the rest of the boys, oi, we're here to play and we're here to win. Don't forget that. This isn't all fun and games. But, that's where, as Sia mentioned, this whole Conte effect of having him in the dressing room, this manager, this coach, he is the difference maker. And that's why we'll go into the match against Sassuolo looking to go hell for leather to get the 3 points. Whereas I'm hoping that De Zerbi and his men are just happy to have a fun day out on the park, pretty much, as Sia was just saying. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. We've gone a little longer than expected, but that's all well and good. So I'd just like to thank Mo for coming on Into Worldwide again. Thanks, bro.
Thank you.
All good. And Sia, thank you generously for your time from Sweden, my friend. It's good to chat with you. And we'll keep an eye out and chat soon.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Battery, so if it dies, you guys know why. I'm not rude. I'm just having a computer that.
No worries, man. Thanks again. And from all of us here at Inter Worldwide, Forza Inter. Ciao, ragazzi.